this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time session in the gloom. I had to wait for it to stop chucking it down outside because of the noise. I'm going to have a go at getting these. These are 3 Aerangis. I've got 4, but the other one's a relatively new plant, recently mounted on a decent bit of cork bark, so that one's fine. These, however, their mounts have had it. They're just crumbling. They've rotted. So they have to come off. Now this one has got roots front and back, which is a bit of a nuisance, and it's 2 plants with the roots tangled together. This one is probably going to not come off very easily, and I'm going to get root loss. Well, they've got to come off, so one way or the other. Let's get these flower spikes out of the way. They're gone now. Two on each, that wasn't bad. A nice little show. Incredible fragrance. Right, I think this is just a matter of brutality, really. The mount is just crumbling. It might be easier to just crumble the mount and see what's left. This really has gone. Okay, well, we'll get it set up on some cork bark and see how we go. But by hook or by crook, they've got to come off. So I think it's just a matter of tugging and seeing what happens. I have to try and get them off together and then untangle the roots. So it's a lot of the older roots that are attached. The newer roots tend to be the more aerial ones, which is hopefully the saving grace. I might even have to cut them off. It looks like they're both going to come off together. The roots that have gone round the back are going to break. I don't know though, they are loosening. This might untangle itself. Well, they're off. Now what have we got? And we tease them apart. What's happened here is roots have grown into other roots into the base of the 2 plants. So they're not going to separate very easily. I want these as 2 separate plants this time round. So I'm just going to keep wiggling and teasing and pulling. Yeah, we have 2 plants. Jolly good. There's a lot of tangled fishing line. That's coming off okay. Alright, so that's 1 plant. Alright, dead roots first. There's no point in remounting it with dead roots on. It's mostly the oldest roots, which would be in the centre of the plant. Even though it was mounted, that's still the way it goes. Not too bad, not too many dead ones. Well, he says. It'd be better if there was no dead ones. But that's life. Orchids rejuvenate their roots over a period of time. Even if you look at ones in the wild, they've got old dead roots on them. What are we doing here then? That spindly little thing is no good to man or beast. Right. Now this one, if you look at this one, there are no branching. Oh, there's one. There is a branch on a root. Even though it's an old dead one that's cracked up here, it's coming off. But this is not naturally a branching root system. Most of these roots are single roots. Although that's not a bad root, there's no point in keeping it because because it won't mount very well, it's too long. Right, because it came off a mount flat, same again with that one. I just want to get it into a position where it will mount. So that's one. Now, any old dead stumpy bits when you're mounting are worth taking off, because they're a potential for rot basically. So old stumps of flower spikes, anything that just is dead. That includes that sheath at the bottom. Which is a hidey hole for bugs, but I've never had bugs on any of my Aerangis. So that's one little plant, that's not bad. Put that to one side, do the other one. Again, there's very few actual roots that have branched. So naturally it doesn't branch. I ought to look this up really, but in my Aerangis sort of encyclopedia or manual, whatever you want to call it, each species is described, and there are quite a few that are only ever found on bare trunks. They're never found growing in moss or in amongst other plants. They're only ever found on bare tree trunks or branches. That's the only place they seem to get a hold. And quite honestly, that's the sort of root system that wouldn't need to branch. It would just stretch out from the base of the plant, grab hold, and that'll do. Maybe this is one of those. Sure what that is. It's a stumpy bit of wood. It's the base of the plant actually, it's just a bit woody. Right, how are we doing? Spindly one, you can come off. So that leaf just as well come off as well, it's dead. That one does have a new leaf growing at the moment, so all these are firm. So that's, I'll set that one, that long spindly one there. I'm not going to take it right back, I'm going to take it back to about there. It's green inside, it may branch. You never know, you never know. Alright, so that's that one done, that's two. Two mounts, there's going to end up being four. Now, crinkly leaved one has actually got a tag, even though you can't read it. Oh yes, you can read it. That's Mr. Sidii, this one. The one that hasn't bloomed yet. Just keeps growing young plants. Where's my camera? Grows young plantlets out from the side. So where I bought one plant, I've got a right manky leaf there, it's actually turned into several. Now this one's not even tied on, this one's held on naturally by its roots, which they're breaking basically, and this is a more delicate plant, so it's not going to be quite so easy to break off. It's going to leave some roots behind as well, which is a shame, but that's the way it goes. I'm just trying to ease them. But again, not a very branching root system. Are you going to come off? Not too bad. Not too bad. What have we got around the back here? Quite a lot of manky roots. Again, the oldest one's in the centre of the plant. You're going to moan now because I didn't sterilise my tools. I spent years and years without bothering with that, Shall I tell you why I started bothering? Because I was doing YouTube videos, and it's a case of don't do what I do what I say in this case. You should sterilise tools between plants. You can pass on things from one plant to another, but my attitude at the moment is there's nothing wrong with these plants. They've been growing well for some considerable time and have no signs of any ills or malcontents or anything. They're fine. Just trying to find any seriously dead bits. It's not too bad actually, but again it's not a branching root system naturally. Come off. Right. How are we doing? Spindly bit. Spindly bit. You often find an orchid that doesn't appear to have it. No, it has got a branch. It has branched. I've seen a branch, so it's capable of it. So any roots that have their ends trimmed may branch out. It doesn't do it naturally though. I've actually got some active growing tips, not many. I've got new roots here. There's a growing tip there. So some roots are actively growing at the moment. This is not its growing period really. It's just tend to push out more roots in the spring rather than at the end of the season. Right, so what we've got there is a nice flat plant that will go straight back on a new mount. And as some of the roots are actively growing, hopefully it'll grab hold quite quick. I've still got some dead stuff around the base of the plant, hidden around the back. Can't get at that one very easily. There we go. Get in there. Won't be able to do this without pointed scissors. Be chopping them off left, right and centre. Although that looks a good root, the base is gone, so it's not. I think for that one, Mr. Non-Bloomer, there we go. A manky leaf there. I wonder if I can get at that without cutting half the plant to pieces. Yes. Right, that'll do for that little one. That will go back nice and flat. It came off flat, it'll go back flat. And plenty of roots. I mean, I've mounted some with a quarter of those roots and they've managed to get going. Now the problem one. This has the finest of little roots, and it has a problem. And I think if you look here, the little plantlet that grew out the side has lost its new leaf, and that is a form of rot. And I think that whole little plantlet is actually gone. The base of that leaf is orangey coloured or browny. That one's got some stains and its latest leaf has gone. I think that has rotted, and it's coming off on the grounds that it could. Now you know why I left this one till last. I knew that was coming. I think that little plantlet would be better off better off. Come out right. Right, now this one's really isn't going to come off very easy, I don't think. Very fine roots this time round, but we shall see. Luckily, a lot of the newest roots are aerial. So they should be maintained. Look at it, the mount's just falling apart in my hand. Right, well, that came off easier than I thought it would. Jolly good. Let's get all the fishing line out of the way, otherwise I'll be trimming the fishing line thinking it's roots, because it's about the same size. And that moss smells a bit niffy as well. Luckily there's not too much of it. Right, what have we got then? What we've got there is not that bad a root system. Just taking the old flower spikes off. Blooms regularly, this one, and what I like about this one, this is fastuosa. See, even that new leaf's got a mark on it. Do you know what I think's been going wrong? The only thing I can put this down to is, for the first time this year, I've used the sprayer to water quite frequently, which means the plants are getting wet. I haven't got the aim with the sprayer that I've got when I'm doing it my normal way. Right, well, what we've got here is some aerial roots, some good roots, and some that are not so good, and they're not that easy to tell apart. So it's going back on the mount exactly as it came off, apart from a couple which are obviously gone. But I'm not going to go mad with these roots because they are so difficult to tell what's dead and what's not. And I'd rather leave a couple of dead ones on there than cut good ones off. There are some that are obviously dead, but they're not as obvious as it seems. But we don't want to go mad. Quite honestly, it's its latest roots that are the good ones, and they're nearly all aerials. Some of them were touching the bark, but right, dead ends. No point in leaving them. Now this one does branch. This is a naturally branching root system because it's done it all over the place. If it's done it all over the place, it's highly liable to do it again. Where's that coming from? Oh, there. So I can see a dead bit that I couldn't work out where it was attached. Come on, stop shaking hands. There we go. You're dead. You're dead. Right, that's all I'm going to do to that one. As I say, it does have a branching root system, some of which are new, some of which aren't. So it's not a brilliant root system, but this one's never grown that many roots. It only pushes out a couple a year, and as I said, this year they've literally all gone aerial. So that's all it's done this year. So lost my little plantlet off to one side, which is a shame. I think this one needs watering a little bit more carefully from now on, and keep the water off the plant. These are only tiny, and they, you know, if you look at the new leaf, it's got a distinct hollow there that when it was upright on the mount, that could easily have held water. I think we need to keep the water off that one. Right, I shall have a clean up. I should probably reuse some of these hooks, there's nothing wrong with them. Yeah, I'll get rid of the old bark, get the hooks off and everything like that. And then now that I've got the plants off and I can see how big they are, they're all going on a portion of this. But I didn't want to cut it until I had the plants in my hand, so that I can do things like that and sort of say, right, that bit needs to be that big. Yeah? So that was the idea of not cutting it before. But I'll have a clean up and I'll be back. I'm not going to video mounting all 4 of these. I'll do 1 or 2. Otherwise it's just going to go on too long, and it's just a repetition really. But I'll be back. Okay, so that one piece of bark is completely used. I've got a nice long piece for this one with its long roots. Yeah, and a lot of these roots do go out sideways, so that piece is nicely shaped for that plant. So that's that one. This one, without anywhere near as many roots, is going to tuck nicely in that crevice, and then these will tie back. So that's that one, reasonable size piece. This one needed a piece a little bit longer because its roots were a bit longer, so cut accordingly. And hopefully these will tie on okay and get flat. And then this little tiny one has always done well with a small piece of bark and some of its roots being aerial, and it's always done well like that, so I see no reason to change it. I just needed to get rid of the rotting wood, and we're going to have a go at something quite different. I've been cultivating some live moss in a tray, and that's what these are going to get. And it's not, now under normal circumstances when I do a mount, I put the plant on first and then put the sphagnum moss over the top and tie. Now these are going to get done slightly differently because I want the moss to grow on the bark. So I'm going to sit it more between the roots than on top of them, and it's going to be fiddly, I can tell, especially at this time of day. As I say, I'm not going to film all of these, they're all a bit repetitious, but I'll do a couple. So I'll start with that one. Okay, right, let's make a start. Myself some tying on stuff. Well, that went in there tight, didn't it? A pair of pliers to get me fishing line undone. Must have been in an energetic mood last time I did that up. Now this is going to need quite a few turns because the moss is small. Not because the roots need it, but because I'm going to need quite a few turns to hold the small pieces of moss in place, or they're just going to fall off. I mean, once they start to grow, they'll hold on to the mount naturally. But in the meantime, they're going to need some help. So we'll give them some help. With plenty of ties round. And I've always found that roots grow best when the plant's firm. They just do. Never really understood why, but they just do. So the firmer the roots are against the mount, the existing roots won't grab hold, but the yeah, let's put the loop on the mount first. So I'm just going to whereabouts I need it, where it's going to stay in place. Always look for little bits sticking out on the side of your mount that will hold your tie in place so that it doesn't slip and slide. So somewhere about there, I think. Right, and then we need to get our plant on. And literally I want most of the leaves sticking up out the top of the mount, on the grounds if they're touching the mount they're more likely to be capable of rotting. It's as simple as that, because they'll be touching something that's constantly wet. So I'm just going to go round once to hold the plant in place, and then with my third hand this is where it gets fiddly. This moss is in tiny little pieces. There might be some larger pieces here, but it's mainly little pieces, and I want little pieces. I want this to just go in around the roots, not necessarily. There's no point in having the moss hanging. If it's not touching the bark, it probably won't grow. It needs to touch the bark. So as I said, it's a bit fiddly, and I don't need loads. It will grow. The plan is that the moss will grow, so it will grow in amongst the roots. So now I've got wet hands, which is no good for fishing line. Right, where did we get to? That's more than enough moss. I don't want any moss near the base of the plant. Not for these. Just want it in amongst the roots. Right, let's see if we can hold that in place. And pull the roots back against it. It would help if I took my foot off the end of the fishing line, wouldn't it? No wonder it wouldn't come up. Each time I go round, I'm looking for a nook in the bark, so that once I wrap it round it won't move, it won't slip, it won't slide around. and that's not bad. It's not bad at all. I'm going to go round once more purely to get my loop back up to where my knot is so that I can tie it off. And I've got far too much there, so we'll cut that now. We'll cut that now. Scissors. Do it. Oh God. It's because it's wobbling. Thank you. Get her out. Right. Now I've got a nice short end to tie with, which should work. Right. In through the V from the original loop. And that will give me something to tie against. This doesn't have to be a garrote. Doesn't have to be tight, so tight that it cuts into the roots. It's only holding a plant that weighs virtually nothing. So it doesn't need to be really, really tight. But I will show you a trick that when you've got lots of loops like this, yeah, these aren't too bad, but what you can do is go round the whole lot, yeah, and tie it again, and it'll just pull them tighter and just give them that little edge, and then just tie it off again, and that will just hold the loops together. I've got wet hands. Oh, there we go. I don't need tags on these. I know what they are. They are all very different, despite all being Aerangis. They're totally different plants. Right, so that's that one. Yeah, the moss is held. I'm just going to tuck a few ends in under the loops. I need it to touch the bark. If it doesn't touch the bark, it's not going to grow. I need that to take over the mount and the roots to be in amongst it. So that's that one done. That's one. Get that one out of the way. And we could have a go at the big one, because this one's got roots going up above and below, and a lot of them. And it's an odd shaped mount, so we'll do that one. We'll get that one out of the way. Dry hands. Oh. This one will need to go round lots and lots and lots, so we'll have quite a bit. It's not a wide piece of bark, so each loop won't be that big, but I'd rather have too much and cut a bit off. Fishing line, well, it costs me nothing, but even if you had to buy it, it costs next to nothing. You know, 100 metres of fishing line for a few quid. How long is it going to take you to use 100 metres of fishing line? And before anyone asks, I don't know what gauge fishing line it is. I was given it, so I haven't got a clue. Not a clue. Right, let's get me loop attached. Somewhere up round there, where there's some gnarly bits. It's got that. Get our plant in place. As I say, this one's going sort of sticking out a bit, because I really don't want the base of these plants getting wet. I don't mind if some aerials are sticking out the side, aerial roots are sticking out the side. I'm happy with that. And we'll go round once to hold the plant in place where I want it. And then we'll use our third hand to hold that loop, leaving our other two hands free to put the moss on. Trouble is, I do need that third hand to help with the moss. Again, the moss is going on the mount. I'm not interested in whether it's on top of the roots, in between the roots, or underneath the roots. I just want it on the mount. And I don't want the roots totally covered. I need the moss to grow. That's the important bit. Now, some of that moss is on top of some of the roots, but that was a big piece, so hopefully that will get going better. Then we'll put some up round the top. A little bit out the side there. I'm going to run out soon. I've still got 2 plants to do. I didn't, so this is all the moss I've got growing at the moment. But it will spread. The idea is if it actually starts growing on the mount, it'll do its own thing. So the fact that it's a bit low at the moment won't matter too much as long as it grows. I think that'll do. Just get that away from the base of the plant before I start wrapping round. Make sure it's nicely touching the mount. That's what I'm after. Right, so I'm going to dry my hand off and let's start winding and see what we get. So we'll go round there and come up to the narrower bit now. Go round there. If I don't go round another low turn, that moss is going to fall off. So that's not to hold the plant, that's to hold the moss. The plant's already held. And then we'll have to start going back up, because we have to go round the top at least once. How much have I got here? Oh, I've got stacks. I want to go round under that leaf. That's the base of the plant then. And then we can come round the top, butterfingers, and tie that moss off there. Get that held on nicely. And one more round the top to hold the moss. That's a lot of turns. I wouldn't normally have to do that many, but as I said, I'm tying the moss on, not the plant. Right, where's my V gone? There it is. I'm not going to pull the loops tight on this one, there's no point. They were wound round quite tight anyway. Before anybody asks, that's a reef knot. Right over left, left over right. You can do it the other way round if you like, but as long as you use the same end to tie both knots, and then it'll hold, it won't slip. Right, so that's that little one done. Got moss held. Press it down, make sure it's firmly touching the mount, and then perhaps it will get a grip and start to grow. There we go, so that's that little one done. That's the, I've forgotten already, I said I don't need a tag, but in my notes I've got descriptions of these plants, and this is the one that hasn't bloomed, so I know which one it is, because in my notes it's the one that hasn't got any date bloomed against it. So that's 2 done. The one with the wavy leaves, that's the one that's just bloomed, Decariana. That's a repeat of what we did before, and that's another little small version of what we did before, so I won't bother filming those 2. So there we go, a kitchen session, a mounting session, and a trial of something a bit new. The only time I've used live moss before, the experiment went wrong, and it was with my Dendrobium Cuthbertsonii, where I actually planted them in a little tray. So they were planted flat, yeah, with some holes in the bottom of the tray and some live moss, and it didn't work. They stayed too wet, basically, trying to keep the moss alive. But hopefully on a mount I can keep it going. I've seen many other people with mounts that have used live moss and it's actively growing without the plant staying too wet, so it should work. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, all good fun, and I'll see you next time. And now I'm going to go and load this video up with my new internet service. I did a speed check on it after I got it all working, and the download speed runs at about between 210 and 220, which is more than enough for anything I will ever need. But more importantly, the upload speed is running nearly at 21, just under 21 instead of 7. That's more than double the upload speed. So that should get them up onto YouTube a bit quicker. That's the theory anyway. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye for now.